Two officers arrive at a house after receiving a distress call. Inside, they hear terrified cries. One officer finds an unconscious young woman tied up on the floor. As he moves toward her, a noise from behind a door grabs his attention. Meanwhile, his partner continues checking the rest of the house. Suddenly, a loud gunshot rings out. The second officer races to find his partner, but before he can reach him, a masked figure charges at him. A struggle breaks out, but the officer quickly overpowers the attacker. Rushing back, he discovers his partner wounded on the floor. The injured officer tries to warn him about someone behind him, but it's too late. Another masked figure moves in with a blade. Reacting quickly, the officer turns and fires. Just then, the man wakes up from this intense dream beside his wife, Breneer Baker, as she drives them through the countryside for a much-needed getaway. As they travel, a car behind them begins honking aggressively before pulling up alongside. The driver shouts out to Breneer, declaring his admiration for her, completely ignoring the fact that she's not alone. She responds with a sharp gesture, and her husband Dylan laughs it off. The stranger speeds away. They stop at a small diner for a break. While Breneer takes a table, Dylan heads to the restroom. In private, he quietly tends to an old wound from his dream, a mark that's somehow real. Soon, the man from the road enters the diner with two companions. Spotting Breneer, he comments on her earlier behavior. She fires back a sharp remark, and tension thickens. Dylan returns and calmly suggests they avoid trouble. The man, Butch, challenges him, hinting at a fight, but before things escalate, an older woman named Mama steps in. She welcomes Butch and his men, steering the conversation toward lighter topics while taking their orders. She kindly insists the newcomers pick up the couple's bill. Though Dylan protests, Breneer lightens the moment by joking she'll have dessert too. Later, as they continue their drive, Breneer thanks Dylan for standing up for her at the diner. Dylan grins, saying he was actually doing the guys a favor by keeping them from making a mistake. That evening, while setting up camp, a woman passing by warns them to stay cautious. The locals aren't too welcoming to outsiders, and it's best they stick to the trails. Taking her advice, Breneer and Dylan go hiking together. As rain begins to fall, they seek shelter in an abandoned cabin. Inside, they share a private moment. The next morning, Mama is seen attending church while Breneer explores the cabin. She stumbles upon a hidden room and calls Dylan to help move a large wardrobe. Behind it, they discover a secret space filled with weapons. Alarmed, Dylan insists they leave immediately, but before they can, Butch appears and knocks him out. Breneer wakes to find Dylan badly hurt and surrounded by Butch and his men. They demand answers, convinced the couple were sent to spy on them. Dylan insists they came on their own, but his words fall on deaf ears. Breneer, restrained nearby, pleads for them to stop. One of Butch's men pulls him aside, reporting that their campsite confirms they aren't affiliated with any authorities. Realizing his mistake, Butch tells his crew to clear out the couple's belongings. Another man, Jesse, rifles through Breneer's bag and quietly pockets her smartwatch. Returning inside, Butch offers a cold apology, but it's a ruse. He fatally shoots Dylan before turning the weapon on Breneer. He orders his men to get rid of the evidence. Later, Breneer regains consciousness in a shallow grave. A memory flashes through her mind from her days of survival training. She removes the bindings and duct tape, tears filling her eyes as she sees Dylan's lifeless form beside her. She leaves a keepsake necklace with him, gently covers him with leaves, and climbs out. Back at the campsite, she takes in what happened. Grief hardening into resolve, she picks up an axe and heads out into the wilderness. If you're enjoying the story so far, consider subscribing and dropping a like. It really helps and means a lot. Anyway, let's get back to the story. The next morning, Butch and his men sit down to breakfast, served by uneasy women who quietly cater to them. One of the men remarks that they were supposed to keep Breneer around so she could work in the kitchen for them. Later, Mama meets with them in the kitchen, while Breneer quietly prepares pointed wooden stakes using an axe. Meanwhile, Butch is seen selling firearms to a group. One of the buyers asks if he's going to count the money they've handed him, but Butch simply replies that it's a matter between him and Mama. Breneer returns to the house under cover of night, moving carefully through the shadows. She quietly overcomes one of the men stationed nearby, then makes her way into a concealed room she remembers visiting long ago with her husband. There, she retrieves a tool she had hidden, a weathered axe, and prepares to continue her search for the others. Not far off, several of Mama's men gather at a storage shed, attempting to gather supplies. Bernaire approaches unnoticed, quietly taking control of the situation before leaving a trail behind for one of them, hoping it will lead her further into their plans. She cleverly sets the fuel supplies alight, causing a large fire to erupt in the distance. Elsewhere in the woods, a hunter, startled by the sound, watches as animals scatter. At the main house, Mama and her group hear the distant blast. She quickly orders Butch to investigate. The hunter, revealed to be Sheriff Hobbs, begins making his way toward the source of the disturbance. Meanwhile, Bernaire follows the trail she left behind, watching as Butch finds the injured Jesse and hears him whisper that Bernaire is still alive and active. Seizing the chance, Bernaire quietly hides in the back of Butch's vehicle before it returns to the compound. Once back, Bernaire slips away and observes from a distance as Mama scolds Butch for his failures. Determined to uncover who they're up against, one of Mama's men uncovers the truth. Bernaire was once the region's first female ranger, a fact that leaves Mama uneasy. Sheriff Hobbs soon discovers the aftermath of Bernaire's actions. At the scene, his deputies explain how Mama controls most of the land and manages things on her own terms. Back at his office, Hobbs' secretary makes a discreet call to Mama, informing her of the sheriff's investigation. When Sheriff Hobbs arrives at Mama's property, he delivers news of one of her people being found. Mama dismisses it as personal misfortune, but the sheriff, sensing there's more to the story, requests a formal statement. Mama claims to have already coordinated with the coroner and deflects further questioning. Later that evening, Mama and her group gather for a somber moment by the fire. As the night wears on, one by one, they drift away to rest. Bernaire, seizing the opportunity, makes her move, confronting Butch in a tense, physical struggle that leaves her victorious. She carefully conceals the outcome and slips away. At dawn, Bernaire spots her own Jeep parked inside the compound, but before investigating, she notices a young girl being dragged toward one of the houses. She waits until the area clears, then sneaks inside to discover 3 frightened girls confined in a small room. Bernaire gently reassures them and quietly helps them out. But during their escape, an accidental noise alerts the guards. A frantic chase begins through the compound. In the chaos, one of the girls is separated from them, and Bernaire acts swiftly to protect the others, using her surroundings to their advantage. News reaches Mama that Bernaire is in the compound and Butch is missing. She orders the search to begin and calls for a man named Hanks. Pursuit spills into the woods, where Bernaire and one of the girls, Emily, face more danger. When Emily is hurt in the chase, Bernaire comes to her side, refusing to leave her behind. One of the pursuers makes a cold remark, but Bernaire, always resourceful, uses one of her carefully planned traps to turn the situation around, giving them a chance to escape. As Bernaire and Emily catch their breath, Jesse appears. Without hesitation, Bernaire takes aim and neutralizes him. Soon after, Hanks arrives with his group. Spotting one of his men with a rod injury to the face, Hanks comments on Bernaire's relentless tactics. Later, Bernaire and Emily sit by a fire. Emily asks how Bernaire learned to fight, and she reveals that she served in the military. Emily then timidly asks if Bernaire might teach her a few things someday, to which Bernaire agrees, though warning it won't be easy. Emily then confides something painful. She's expecting Butch's child, which means Mama will stop at nothing to get her back. Bernaire expresses sorrow for what Emily has endured and promises not to leave her behind. Emily explains that she isn't the first and won't be the last, revealing that every 2 months, new captives arrive, destined to be traded away. The following morning, as Emily washes up nearby, Bernaire hears her scream. Men have found Emily and are dragging her away. Bernaire rushes to help, quickly taking down the attackers. But as she does, the sheriff appears and orders her to drop her weapon. Bernaire tries reasoning with him, claiming they're on the same side. Just then, another man emerges and fires at the sheriff, hitting his leg. Bernaire swiftly responds, stopping the attacker. She tends to the sheriff's wound, applying a makeshift tourniquet to slow the bleeding. Though she's eager to leave, Emily hesitates, insisting they shouldn't abandon the wounded sheriff. Bernaire initially resists, but eventually agrees, and together they help him out of the area. Meanwhile, Hanks and his men arrive at the scene, finding the aftermath of Bernaire's resistance. Hanks orders his men to release the dogs and track her down. Bernaire hides the sheriff in a safer spot. As he comes to, he asks her what's really happening, Bernaire tells him bluntly to find his own way out of the forest if he wants to survive. Danger is still closing in. As Bernaire and Emily make their way through the river, Hank notices a red stain on a nearby leaf, signaling that they're close. He quickly alerts the others that Emily is somewhere in the water. Bernaire and Emily cross to the other side, and Hank follows, but the dog soon loses their trail. Not long after, Bernaire spots a vehicle approaching. It turns out to be someone she recognizes. She urgently asks for a ride out of the woods, and Emily tells the driver they need to send help for the sheriff, who's injured nearby. The two fall asleep during the ride, but when they wake, they realize they've been taken to Mama's compound. They're dragged from the car, though Bernaire puts up a struggle. Mama confronts Emily, reminding her how she once took care of her, though now it's clear those days are long gone. Mama, in her cruel way, sentences Emily to death. Bernaire quickly speaks up, claiming she was the one who led Emily there, hoping to use her as a way to escape. Mama demands to know if it's true that Emily wanted to stay, and Bernaire explains she'd promised Emily that if she helped her leave, she would help start a new life for her and her unborn child. Mama questions Emily about the pregnancy, and Emily confirms it's Butch's child. With that, Mama orders Emily to be taken back into their cycle of control. Turning back to Bernaire, Mama accuses her of trespassing, taking out her people, ruining her operation, and costing her money. Bernaire responds coldly, warning that the last thing Mama will ever see is her. Mama signals Hank to take Bernaire away. As they're leading her off, Bernaire notices Mama's watch, a gift from Jesse. Later, Bernaire is tied up inside a room, and the guards casually talk about her. One of them suggests taking advantage of the situation, but is quickly warned not to underestimate her. They mention Mama plans to keep her alive until morning to break her spirit. Elsewhere, Mama questions Emily about how long she's known about her pregnancy. Emily quietly answers that it's been a little while. Mama admits she never believed Bernaire's story, and that she only kept Emily around because of Butch. Once the baby's born, she intends to send Emily away. Meanwhile, Bernaire recalls her time in captivity during her military days. One of Mama's men offers her water, while the other, assigned to watch her, sleeps. When the sleeping man wakes, he sends the kind one away. Emily later asks if Bernaire is all right, and he reassures her. Bernaire uses the opportunity to provoke the man watching her, calling him out. He responds bitterly, claiming he would have ended her life if he'd been there the day her husband was lost. Bernaire dares him to act, and as he rises with harmful intentions, Emily arrives with food. The man, irritated by the interruption, tries to force himself on Emily, but Bernaire diverts his attention, buying Emily just enough time to grab a nearby knife and defend herself. Emily panics in shock, and Bernaire shouts her name, snapping her out of it. Bernaire urges her to use the knife to cut the ropes. Once free, Bernaire tells Emily to hide under the bed while she deals with the others. Bernaire moves through the place, silently taking down several of Hank's men and Mama's enforcers. When Mama returns, she's met with the grim aftermath. She steps into the room where Bernaire was held, finding one more fallen man. Just as she's about to leave, a noise from under the bed catches her attention. At that moment, Bernaire runs into Hank, who gets the drop on her, aiming a weapon at the back of her head. He forces her down and makes it clear he plans to end things. As he presses his foot onto her hand, Bernaire manages to turn the situation, striking him down before he can act. Bernaire then finds the man who had earlier shown her kindness. Instead of turning on him, she offers him a chance to walk away, which he takes. Mama appears again, this time with Emily in tow and a sharp object pressed against her. She taunts Bernaire, calling her tough and stubborn. Bernaire warns her not to harm Emily and reminds Mama she's the only one left. Suddenly, the man Bernaire had spared stabs her from behind. Wounded, Bernaire reacts swiftly and takes him out. Mama uses the moment to strike Emily, leaving her badly hurt. Brenner fires, but Mama escapes. Brenner rushes to Emily's side, but it's too late. As Emily fades, Bernaire heartbreakingly tells her she never deserved this. Though wounded, Bernaire manages to start her vehicle and drives away. Months later, Sheriff Hobbs gets a call from Bernaire, hinting that she may reach out for help now and then. Back at the compound, Mama is seen sitting outside when a message appears on her smartwatch. Today is Judgment Day. The moment Mama looks up, a single shot ends it. The one remaining man nearby is left frozen. Hidden in the trees, Bernaire lowers her weapon with a grim smile, gets in her car, and disappears down the road.